What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Just Saying. We are still talking about GE.
Today we are very prepared, as you can see by the number of devices on the table.
And by this thick amount of paper, by this NUS student
There's more.
who refuses to use an iPad.
You know why? Because you can have capybara post-it notes and cute little stickers on paper.
Today, what we're going to discuss, Denise?
We are going to be ranking the most exciting and most boring battlegrounds in Singapore this general election.
Amazing intro. That's what we're
So,
going to do.
Joel will now help me explain what is a battleground.
All right, battlegrounds are basically the places where the results are going to be highly competitive, making them very unpredictable.
Correct. So somewhere that would not be a battleground would be Ang Mo Kio GRC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why? Because Lee Hsien Loong is...
Yeah. Can I say that about Yishun? Because he's
Ni
Nin
Sun?
Sham.
Yes, and he also wins by quite a large percentage. I think 60 to 70% on average.
I have some opinions on that, but we can discuss that later.
Before we dive in, we need to say a disclaimer first.
Yes. So actually, we're recording this episode just before nomination day. So everything that we're discussing today is really based on what they have signaled that they will be contesting in, not really, finalized yet. So once that comes out, then I guess we'll see whether we are correct.
So I think the one that most people are talking about right now is West Coast Jurong GRC, where PAP is contesting PSP. And why this is expected to be very competitive is because in the previous 2020 elections, it was won by the narrowest margin in the whole country. So I think it was only 3.36%, if I'm not wrong, that the PAP won by. And this time round, Mr. Tan Cheng Bock from PSP is going to be at the same GRC again. And the two NCMPs from PSP are also going to be at that same GRC.
Okay.
So I think they're expecting that the 3% ground is going to be made up.
Okay.
So before we go into the discussion today, I think maybe I want to propose that we approach every GRC that we're going to be talking about, or SMC, with like a framework, because I think when we look at why one particular constituency is exciting, we can boil it down to three different factors, right? So the first one is competitiveness, meaning to say that, multiple parties have a real chance of winning.
Okay.
The next part is what's at stake, because once there is something, you have something to lose, that makes it exciting. So let's explain what the impact on, Singapore can be after the elections, which is why it's exciting. And the last part is the prominent candidates, right? I think sometimes you just see certain people competing in certain areas and immediately that constituency becomes exciting. So let's explain all of that to our audience as well. Yeah.
Okay. Can I just say the only person I know from this West Coast thing is Desmond Lee?
We can discuss Desmond Lee, and I guess that we can park that under what's at stake, right? Because a lot of people say that he's such a great minister as well. But at the same time, I agree with Denise that, there's actually so much groundwork that the PSP has gained over the last 5 years. So let's talk about maybe the 2020 elections. I don't know if you guys remember, but when the PSP came onto the scene, there's a lot of excitement around them being Dr. Tan Cheng Bock's party. In the 2011 presidential elections, Dr. Tan Cheng Bock came in very close to
I remember
winning.
that they even did a recount, right?
Yes.
It was like up until super late.
They say it was Tan Cheng blocked.
So eventually Tony Tan became our president, but there was a lot of support surrounding Dr. Tan. So when he came forward with this new party, a lot of excitement was surrounding him and the new PSP. So when we look at that, plus the fact that, the two NCMP seats that they got after the elections, they had the 5 years to build, groundwork, momentum. Now it's not just Dr. Tan and his team, it's now Dr. Tan, Hazel Phua, Leong Man Wai, and then the two people. I know you don't like Leong Man Wai based on episode 1, but you can't deny that today, Hazel Phua and Leong Man Wai have way more of a visibility for Singaporeans. So there's that factor now.
Yeah, and a lot of youth support as well.
Yeah, the PSP as a party has been so popular among young people.
And Tan Cheng Bock actually, even when he was a PAP MP, he was very, very active in the Jurong East area, Jurong East, West Coast, Ayer Rajah, that whole area. So I think definitely it's he should be very confident in the groundwork that he has done there over the past 20 years,
Yeah. The other part to it is what's at stake, right? And I think both sides, both PAP and PSP, have something at stake to lose. Number one, Desmond Lee being a very good minister in the things that he was doing. Number two, I think Leong Man Wai has come forward to say that this is probably going to be Dr. Tan Cheng Bock's last election. When you look at the PSP, you can also kind of see him, wanting to now let the next generation take over.
Pass on the torch.
So I think,
Pass on the torch to Like Yong Man Wai. I mean,
Well, there's definitely a lot at stake then.
wait. So I just read about Tan Cheng Bok commenting on his thoughts on contesting in possibly his last election. Okay, so he says, a politician never dies. Where I am, whether in politics, I think we have to look after this place. Very superhero-ish. Now I understand why young people support him. He also says, when asked about how confident PSP is winning in the West Coast Jurong West GRC, Tan said, I'm coming home. We are confident.
Wait,
Yeah.
do MPs stay in where they...
No, they don't.
I think it's not
Usually
necessary. Yeah, not
But
necessary.
is it better if...
Well,
is it a plus point if
Minister
MP does?
Shan was living in Rideout Road.
Ah.
I don't...
Where's this going, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, if they did have to live in the constituency, then everybody would be in Holland Bukit Timah because that's where like... No, I mean like that's where they live.
Yeah. Wait, so when you say, just to paint some context for the people watching, right, who have no idea about politics, right? When you guys say groundwork, so walking around,
I think the main thing that people look at is also like, are you volunteering and being involved in maybe like youth engagements or whatever that's going on there, even outside of the election period?
so like your
engaging the
door-to-door visits and
community,
everything.
yeah.
Like, okay.
Well, there's also things like, for example, helping residents with their issues, helping the underprivileged in the area.
So my question is how important and how much results does actually groundwork produce? For example, when I see the MPs like walking through the HDBs and then you can hear some neighbors say, lame lah, talk to him also no point one lah.
But people are saying that only because they feel like they're seeing this guy once every 4 years or 5 years though.
I don't think so, This guy, and this is Toa Payoh, and this was Ng Hen.
Oh, Ng Eng Heng. He will open his clinic every night in like Toa Payoh Central.
Wow.
No, it's not a clinic, but like he opens for a Meet the People session like every Monday night. So you can just walk in to this clinic area and you can just talk to him.
Yeah.
Despite him being like, what is he, Minister of Defense? I don't want to...
Yeah, Minister of Defense. X.
Yeah, but you could
Isn't
just
it
go
Ng
in
Eng
and...
Han?
Ng Eng Han, yes.
Ng Eng Han.
What? Yeah.
Okay, listen,
I know
guys.
there's two Ngs.
We
yeah.
are like Malay.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Ng Eng Han, yeah.
It's
So,
very hard.
Cannot say already, cannot say
Trying to
already.
say,
pass.
it's very, very hard. We're trying our best.
so what I'm trying to say is maybe doing too much walkabouts is actually not good because, when you do too much, right, which means that you're actually gathering more info. Listen.
Okay, yes.
As a citizen,
I'm waiting for the
right,
twist.
if the issue does not get settled, despite the amount of times you have heard it, that makes you look
Okay, so
bad.
now you're incompetent instead of ignorant.
Yes. So it's like you walk around, you keep hearing the same problem. The next month you come again, it's still the same problem. Months later, it's still the same problem, and it's still not fixed. What are you doing your walkabouts for?
That's why people will punish you at the next election by voting you out. I think that's why West Coast Jurong is like the battleground to watch because there's so much at stake, right?
And I think maybe people are also considering that the PAP side is perhaps not as strong as what you might expect someone would feel against a PSP team like that. Yeah, so Desmond Lee, then I think the other more notable one would be Mr. Zaki Muhammad.
Actually,
It's going to be hard because Desmond Lee's social media game has been like on point recently. So that's why I think they're going to have a hard time. But it's going to be a battle for the young people.
Are there a lot of young people actually now in the West Coast Jurong? Because
If Tengah and all
yeah.
this, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of new BTOs coming up. So then I would say yes.
Okay, we'll move on
the
from
next
West
exciting
Coast Jurong. What's your vote for one of the more exciting ones to watch?
well, I think from the west, we can go now to the east side. The last election, East Coast was a very closely fought battleground.
More than it should have been.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Right,
No,
they
but
had the future like PM. They had like the DPM hang there.
At that point, he was going to be the PM.
Yes, finance minister.
But they also had Nicole Seah, who was, a star
Exciting,
pool.
yeah.
Yes. What's the ground like for East Coast this year?
East Coast this year is PAP versus WP, who have not officially announced their candidates as of filming.
Maybe those exciting new candidates would be sent to East Coast.
Actually, can we bring up what was the results in 2020?
It was 53.39, right?
The winning margin was 6.78%.
Okay.
But this time around, it's interesting because I think Heng Swee Keat hasn't really been mentioned. Cheryl Chan also just stepped down. Mr. Maliki Osman, he also just retired. So then I was like, oh my god, who's left?
In the GE 2015, they actually, PAP captured 60.73% of the vote. So to lose that 7%, that is actually a huge margin in one election.
Do you think the East Coast Plan speech affected his votes?
I think it definitely made some people question whether or not he was medically fit. But it seems that there are a lot of people who live in landed property and condominiums, and a lot of them are, in our like millennial, like late millennial, so quite young but not young. So I think it's interesting because typically those people used to vote very pro PAP. So for WP to capture that audience, I think it was very different. And it's going to be interesting to see if that was just the Nicosia effect or if genuinely these people are feeling some sort of discontent with the way that the country is being run.
I guess when we're talking about the WP strategy, I think we can also look at maybe Aljunied, because obviously we have seen it been really a WP stronghold for many years now. But I guess word on the ground is everyone's looking at Mr. Pritam Singh and where he will be ending up this election, right? If we look back at, for example, Mr. Low Tia Kiang, he actually had a very safe seat in Hougang SMC. Obviously, they support the WP very strongly in Hougang SMC. But he actually made the decision to say, I think if I go on to a GRC, I might be able to win over a GRC for the WP. And they did. They won Aljunied GRC, which was the first time in history that the opposition has won a GRC. Watershed moment.
Yeah.
And I think when we look at the WP's like short to medium term goal, they did say that they're hoping to win at least 1/3 of the seats in parliament. So I guess perhaps, there's the idea of winning one more GRC this election. And we want to see if, Mr. Pritam Singh will leave Aljunied GRC to go and give a boost to another GRC.
What do you think is, if you were to guess, right, what would make the most sense for Mr. Pritam Singh to go to?
Right. So I think the WP has announced a lot of very promising candidates that are getting a lot of excitement.
Yeah.
For example, Harpreet Singh is one of them. Michael Thung is one of them. I think if you put these very strong names into like an Aljunied GRC, for example, that could maybe like secure the Aljunied GRC, and then maybe Mr. Pritam can say, okay, I think I have enough confidence in Aljunied to remain a WP GRC, and then we can go on to challenge another one, maybe East Coast, because that's the closest margin. I don't know, it's all speculation. And of course, nomination day is coming up. We'll have to see what their strategy is. Regardless, I think it's just so exciting to see, and break down then what their decision process was. Yeah.
Oh, and actually the PAP team for Aljunied are all pretty new faces.
Yeah. So they've been called the Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad. Oh no.
Which is not a new term,
Okay.
I guess maybe the PAP also understands that this area, or at least Singaporeans in general, are going towards a more are working towards a democracy whereby they are happy with some opposition voices in the government. I think one big sign of that is that they did not put a minister into Aljunied GRC. And that's why they're called the Suicide Squad.
Because you don't want to lose a minister.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
Got it. And the interesting thing is that they have been gaining ground. So I think people on the ground are very happy with the way that, it's been administrated. Because of course, there's the policy side of things, but there's also the day-to-day running, is my trash getting picked up on time? Is my road getting fixed? Are the lights getting fixed? Is my elevator spoiled? And I think, there's really been a vote of confidence where they only won by a very slim margin. I think it was 50.96% in GE 2015. This went up to almost 60% in GE 2020.
Right.
So I think that is like a vote where some voters were undecided, we don't really know if they can run the place. They really had that vote of confidence. So let's see if they can maintain it.
I guess also one thing to note is that, it's not going to be a easy decision for Mr. Pritam also, because there is the factor of the court case against him, whereby there was the Raisa Pritam situation, and then the court found him guilty. So my sensing on the ground is that not a lot of people are going to be faced by that. But I think there's going to be sectors of society that say, he's guilty, he's a liar. So
you're speaking to one right here.
Did you really buy it? But this is the perpetual. There's a certain person that is quite apathetic to, is the word apathetic, who has apathy towards politics, and they don't really, they are PAP voters, and so the Pritam thing doesn't really affect them very much, because they are we would never have voted for WP in the first place. But a majority of people that I've spoken to, actually, besides him, I don't know anybody else who has actually said that would really affect or swing their vote. Bear in mind that the 2020 GE results, where they captured almost 60% of the vote, that was, I think Sylvia Lim was on trial for something else.
Right.
And then it didn't work. It doesn't work.
But they tried.
I mean, people, maybe, I mean, we can't like disparage the courts. Because we don't want to go to jail on this podcast. But I'm just saying it didn't work. Whatever it was.
What a shit reason to go to jail.
Whatever it wasn't effective.
Can I ask a question, right? Because just now you did mention that WP said how it's their aim to get 1/3 of the seats, right? I actually saw quite an interesting comment on one random YouTube video that said like over and over, Workers' Party has made it clear that they are not aiming to form the government. So what exactly are they doing? They're behaving more like just an opposition rather than a real alternative. And is that what we really want from opposition? Somebody who critiques but never commits to competing. When you vote for Workers' Party, you are not just choosing an alternative voice. You may actually be diverting precious talent from an already limited pool away from those who are willing to lead Singapore forward.
Okay, so there's a lot to break down.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with not wanting to become the ruling party of the day or ruling government of the day. You know, they just want multiple parties in the parliament.
For checks and balances, which is important in any democracy.
Yeah, it really depends on what you believe in, right? So some people very strongly believe that, you know, when we have a one-party system, it's so efficient because you pass laws, they get done, it's efficient because we have the conditions that allow for success to be won when we have efficiency at play, right? And in early days Singapore, I think that's been proven. But, you know, a growing population is now thinking our democracy is evolving. We are able to maybe consider alternative voices that then keeps this one dominant party accountable by simply asking questions in parliament, for example. So while I understand what that comment was trying to say, I don't think the WP should be faulted for that lah.
So if I were to give you an analogy, taking a note from NSP's wife swapping or what, right? So it's like, for example, you are saying that like we are dating, but I'm not going to commit to marriage, but I just think that it's good for us to be in a relationship. But then because of that, right, it is opportunity cost to somebody else who I could have gotten married to ma.
Who is the bright shining star that didn't make it into government because of WP?
For example, maybe when East Coast won at that point and then Nicosia didn't make it in and then people felt, that could have been such a waste, you know? Yeah, attracting all this good talent as we are seeing also in this election. But if all these people lose, then we are missing out on these people being in parliament. If say they get parachuted in one of the PAP parties, right, then maybe they could have made a bigger difference, is the argument.
So I get that argument.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have to take one step back and say, actually, no, that's not a democratic statement to make because people vote. You know, if you don't win the vote, then you don't deserve to be in the government because people are voting for you. You have to convince the people why you're fit for the job.
Yeah.
You know?
Again, right, if PAP has no, or rather if the ruling party has no opposition, they will never be in check. And
even with opposition, like some of the decisions that they've made recently, there have been a lot of gaffes, there have been a lot of mistakes. If it brings to mind like the Accra BizHub scandal from just last year, the 1% GST raise that everybody is against. The fact that we are going to be giving another $5 billion to Changi for more redevelopment of the airport on top of $6 billion. I think that, we do need, people to come in and question these decisions.
What I learned during this election by speaking to a lot of academics and whatnot is that in our government system, there will always be a guaranteed number of voices in the government, 12 seats if I'm not wrong, that will be reserved for opposition voices. And this is through the NCMP scheme. So for example, let's say 9 opposition members win seats, 12 minus 9 equals 3 seats will be given to the NCMP. After the elections, if let's say you are what they call the best loser, you get the highest amount of votes, but you didn't win, the party will be given, offered the seats of NCMP, which by the way, their powers have been increased now. They, I think the early criticisms is that they don't have similar voting powers.
So we still get a strong government, we just have a little bit more opposition, such that maybe the mistakes that were made the last 4 years will not be repeated.
Right.
Okay, who's the next most exciting battle?
I have an honorable mention to make that I think it's just exciting for the thought experiment of it, which is our current Prime Minister Lawrence Wong, who is contesting in Marsiling UT against SDP, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
I just wonder, if he doesn't win the seat, right, does he still continue on to be PM?
Honestly, I don't think so. I don't think he will get a chance.
Wait.
Because the party wins, then he is the sec gen now, right?
Correct.
Then doesn't he just like follow that?
Wow, it's damn thick skin if you lose. If you lose and then your party wins and then you still
No,
want to
but
be
what's the
PM.
choice? So if Lawrence Wong not around, right? I don't have anybody in mind that could step up to that role right now, you know?
I think it was
In 2 weeks' time.
People were speculating originally that it might have been Ong Yi Kang, and I think like they said that Chan Chun Sing was also floated as like a potential.
I think we can also look at who are the DPMs, right? Because they see DPMs as like second in command.
Potential
so we have 2. We have
Gan Kim
Gan Kim
Yong.
Yong.
Gan Kim
And
Yong.
we have Heng Sik Yet.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
I
exam.
totally
Yeah.
forgot.
Oh,
I
yes,
thought he
yeah.
retired.
No, it's speculation.
Okay.
Wait. Then doesn't that make that the most super exciting battle?
No,
If-
because I think it's quite expected that he will win.
Okay, hold on. Who is contesting with SDP? Are they sending down the big man, Chi Sun Juan?
No,
he's
some
competing
Bawang
with
West.
SMC.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be
Yeah.
hard without Chi Sun Juan.
Well, looking at the SDP team, there is a prominent name, or at least someone with a prominent platform. The founder of Wake Up Singapore is competing in SDP in that Marsiling UT
I didn't
jersey.
know this.
That is an interesting case study to have actually. You know, if you're a social media personality, can you actually steer votes?
Oh.
You get what I mean?
Interestingly, I feel like it's not going to be very exciting because SDP is really one of those parties that is not just a PAP light or an offshoot of PAP. SDP's guiding principles are actually very different to what PAP proposes. So I think that's why they're like sort of not for everyone on the Singapore political spectrum. They're quite far to the left. But I think by their own admission.
Okay, so I think we must talk about some Bawang West SMC. Woo! Because Dr. Chi is actually running there, and I think that that is probably one of the most controversial points since the boundaries were redrawn, right? Because essentially the place that he had been contesting at and doing his work on the ground at for decades just got absorbed into somewhere else, and now he has to like find another place and essentially start over. Yeah, but I think people are also wondering, you know, at this new SMC versus the PAP incumbent, does he actually stand a chance?
Previously, the NSP has also said they wanted to contest there, but as of the recording today, Kevin from the NSP actually came forward to say that she will be withdrawing from there to let Dr. Chi have a chance. So actually, his odds just went up a little bit more. I think not a lot of people say this, but you know, when we look at the map of Singapore and where the opposition have, I guess, strongholds.
Place their people. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I guess most people would say the West is dominated by the PSP because of West Coast and their performance there. The East is WP because, you know, I would say even SENGKANG and Aljunied, they're kind of northeast, so I would say they're east side, and then East Coast, of course. So then I guess if you are the third biggest opposition party, like where can you look at, right? And I think the North, where they have had history in, like just makes sense lah. So I guess that's why we are looking at a very clearly outlined northern strategy for the SDP this time around.
As I was prepping for this episode, it really like opened my mind, right? Because so I live in Sengkang area, but I'm actually under Ang Mo Kio GRC.
Okay.
So to me back then it was like a don't need to think.
Yeah.
Especially it was my first election also in 2020. And then this election, you know, really zoning out and seeing how they are like essentially playing chess with the people that they are placing, or how they pull somebody out after teasing that they're gonna be here for a while. It's really quite exciting.
Yeah, I think when we talk about like exciting and not exciting, we must not fall into this is a foregone conclusion. You know, what I'm hoping for is that everybody will consider the options regardless of, you know, whether or not you think that, you know, this one will win, right? So for example, we can look at like the presidential elections, right? A lot of people said, Taman sure win. You know, I don't even want to consider the other two. But actually, when people listen to what the other two candidates have to say, specifically for Mr. Ng Kok Song, they saw him as a potential contender, but there was also a huge number of people who just didn't even give Mr. Ng Kok Song a chance. Yeah. And to me, that's not democracy, right? What I'm hoping for is that everybody can, you know, approach elections with open mind. How do I say this?
Like if you want to not like,
contender.
if you want to not like them because of their policies.
Correct.
Not like them because of their vision. Not just write them off because they are opposition.
Yes, that's exactly that.
I think Chi Sun Juan just gets like more and more exciting every election cycle.
Why?
First of all, I think it's very commendable the amount of years that he's spent in public service, how much he has had to take. And reading their manifesto now, while I don't agree with everything because I am less to the left in terms of politics than SDP. I like the fact that they make very, very values-based judgments on things.
Who is
Question or
wow.
controversial opinion.
Wow, question.
So you know how people are discrediting Trump because they say he's convicted, right?
Where's this going?
And therefore he should not have been able to run for president. So in the same vein,
Okay, finish.
should someone who has been convicted, debatable what the facts are, same for what some Trump supporters might believe, right? Should Dr. Chi be allowed to run?
What did he do?
If you find out what he did, it would get you on his side. That was a time where it was very, very difficult for the opposition. And I don't want to cast aspersions on like this generation of 4G leaders because this was not them. But I remember when he said that he was running for politics, he got fired from his role. He was actually a professor at NUS. And over something silly.
Okay, Denise got the information already.
Funds to pay like $100 for his wife's dissertation. I don't want to like misquote it because it was a complicated case. But when I look through his history, there's nothing that I see that he's done that would make me question his character in any way.
Let's see what is he charged for lah.
Multiple things.
Wow.
Multiple times and then multiple times contempt of court, multiple times defamation
But it was
suits.
like defamation and contempt of court.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just feel like he was constantly like dogpiled.
But he was trying to do the right thing. Like if you're saying
Yes.
he's protesting for the two
By
dog.
the way, I respect him, okay? I'm not saying that he shouldn't be allowed to run.
Okay, but on the topic of that, right? I mean, based on y'all's opinions, what must they be like convicted for? And then you go like, okay, this guy cannot run.
moral issues law?
Yeah, okay, let's say like murder or this, of course you can't.
Yeah.
Right? Drugs, of course you can't. If you misuse like monetary stuff and everything, I think you really shouldn't run.
So our verdict is that it's okay for someone who has been convicted to run, depending on what
What
they
they
were
did.
convicted
I
Yeah.
for.
think, first of all, if you were ever sued for like defamation by a ruling party, no matter what country it occurred in, that would be extremely sus to me. That's when I'm like, okay, this
Sus
is
on whose end?
sus.
The party.
Yeah, okay, then I agree with you. Yeah. Any more exciting battles?
What about SENGKANG? Why has no one said SENGKAng? Obviously, everybody loves Jamus Lim. Everybody loves He Ting-ru. But the question is whether or not the scandal with Raisa is going to, tar them. They won, but not by a large margin. So it can honestly flip this
But
time.
I feel like it's because the Raisa scandal happened so long ago, right? That it's not really fresh in people's minds. I think it feels like everything went on well. I think there's good reviews, right, coming out of SENGKANG GRC from being under the WP.
The WP team is very young, but so is the PAP team. And what's very interesting is that they have put like a TikTok star who's Dr. Elmi. He was actually my prof when I was like in NUS. He was my comms prof.
How was he as a person?
Nice.
Okay.
Full stop.
No.
Thank you.
I'll take it.
So you know what?
I don't know. I can't tell if that's a lie or like.
No, he's nice as a person, but I feel like if I tell you what he was like as a prof, he's gonna tell you what I was like as a student.
Oh.
And the answer to both of these is no good.
Okay.
Okay? But then after that, we had lunch and like we were like, okay, we'll bury the
Hatchet.
hatchet. So it's quite exciting that they've brought in like a TikTok star because it's a young place. But also I don't think their team there is very strong because they're
PAP?
yes. While Dr. Elmi is a TikTok star, I think they brought in Bernadette Jiam. I mean, she just works for her father as a director. Like, we are all directors at our parents' company. Like, come on, girl. Like, what else do you do? And then, like, I go on, like, Glassdoor and I Google her parents' company and the reviews are, like, awful.
But there's also nothing wrong with working for family business, I guess.
Yeah, but what if your family business has 62 reviews, most of them terrible, talking about bad management, long working hours, not much benefit, higher management dominated by foreign workers who abuse local citizens to do more things, advice to management, treat everyone the same and stop showing favoritism. The organization, oh my God, this guy wrote a whole essay.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
Advice to management. Well, so I think like, I don't know if there was a lot of oversight. Sort of like when they brought, what's his name? Where everyone hated him. His name Ivan Lim.
Yeah.
But this is why to me SENGKANG is not as exciting this time around, because I think the last time they beat out a stronger PAP team, this was back before Ng Chee Meng tried to sell NTUC, right? So it's quite a strong
yes.
team at that point, right? And they beat them out. So what makes them think that, after 5 years, putting in a slightly comparatively weaker team, in my opinion, would beat out WP? So to me, it's like...
But simply because they are PAP. they always have some form of advantage, I feel.
Okay. We'll just end with what Jade thinks is the most boring
Fire.
battle.
The most boring fight, my prediction is going to be RDU versus PAP,
Which is at?
Holland Bukit Timah.
Oh,
Okay. I mean, it's a privilege to have the time to really delve into these things. It's a privilege
It's
to
fair, yeah.
it is a privilege. So most people are concerned about bread and butter issues. If you're very happy with your life and you don't see that you need it to change, okay, fine, fair enough. That's your prerogative. But a lot of people get their news from TikTok and Instagram. And so their TikTok video where they introduced him did not go so well for him because he said he wants to allow NS boys to vote if they're above the age of 18. So he wants to lower. And I was like, this is not the way to capture the hearts of the people in Holland Bukit Timah. This is not like a young estate and they do not trust 25-year-olds. You are going against Vivian Balakrishnan, you know.
Yeah.
They love him there. He's a handsome, he's like a hottie. Look,
I would like
he's
to think-
competing against this. Look how he starched his collar up to make him look smarter. He turned the PAP thing into like a Mandarin collar. He's not going to lose.
That was a
And
stretch.
this is the worst thing. He said some horrible things. He's made a gaffe. He went to like some ridiculous Facebook post. It claims he was hacked. But they love him. You need to understand.
But is there a reason why he wants the young people to vote? The 18-year-olds?
Oh, it was actually a good point. And tell me what you guys think of this point, which is that we force them to do NS. So we force them to like go to war, but we are not going to actually give them a stake in running our country. They don't have a say. I mean, real, but also
Yeah.
all the boomers in the comments were like, 18-year-olds are dumb. Which is also real.
I mean, recently there's a whole conversation about how your frontal lobe only develops at 27.
Later for men. It's later for men.
25 is for
Explains a
women.
lot. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But, no, but yeah, I mean, I also want to say that when I made my vote when I was in my first GE versus, I guess now, I'm a lot more mature and I think about my vote a lot more this time around. Not that I took it like very, anyhow the first time around. But at the same time, I also valued and I was also very excited that I was able to vote, right? I had a say, So it's something that I'm still thinking about. I don't really have a strong opinion on that also. And at the same time also, like when I was 18 years old, what was my interest? I think I was like very excited about like One Direction or something. I don't know.
But based on that argument, should 21-year-olds be allowed to vote?
No lah, as in, I'm just saying.
Based on that, they should raise the voting age.
No, don't want.
So the interesting thing is that I got into an argument with Calvin Cheng online because of this. So we got into a little spat because he said that like young people shouldn't be allowed to vote. We should raise the voting age based on this frontal lobe argument. And I said, if we are just going according to brain development, then why don't you stop allowing old people to vote? Because I remember quoting some stats about neurodegeneration as you get into your older ages.
Yeah.
Then he was like, yeah, I also don't think very old people should vote.
Then
So
what?
I was
Like,
gagged.
what that was the age
No,
here?
no, so I was
You
gagged.
stop voting at
No,
voting
so I
at
was
60.
there. I was like, okay, real. I mean, if you make a point, I was trying to call him out on it, but he stuck to his guns. So I shut up, right? was
I
like,
agree.
I
Mr.
shut
Kelvin,
up.
I agree with you.
he shut me up. He was right. I was wrong. I mean, I'm not wrong, but like his argument is like logically consistent.
So can Down senior people vote?
He was followed by another guy who said that he wanted to lower property taxes, which is very interesting and very against what the RDU stood for. So at that point, I was like, I don't even know if I can trust you guys as a party at this point because it doesn't seem like you're all on the same page.
This guy what? Op ah?
They were going improv, I think.
I think this guy was
I think
just
he panicked.
He was like, hey, fuck, our social views going down. Hey, can we hire a young person?
My boyfriend showed it to me because he was like, oh my God, I love this party. Low property tax. And I was like, wait
Wait a
what?
second.
Again, it's not in their manifesto. So I guess he was just
Yeah.
throwing the things at the wall to see what stuck. But I mean, while he said it, we liked it.
Let's close this episode by choosing where we think will be the most exciting battle based on everything that we've talked about.
I'm gonna say SENGKANG
Okay.
because
Stick to your original vote.
because I think it will be devastating if we lose Hurting Rule. I think it's devastating to lose Jamus. So I'm gonna really be watching that one.
Okay.
All right. At the start of the episode, I talked about the 3 conditions, and I think West Coast GRC fulfills all of them. So I think I'll choose West Coast Jurong GRC.
And I concur.
Yay!
I think I'm most excited to see whether PSP will win their first. I mean, will get their first nominated MPs in. Yeah.
Wait, sorry, where is Lawrence Wong again?
Marceling
Marceling
UT.
UT.
Okay, why nobody say that?
Because he will
It's
win.
not exciting.
No, what if he lose and then he lose his PM-ship?
That just
I mean, what if opposition wins all of Singapore, you know?
I mean, I am a PAP supporter, but if it was me, I would just want to fuck with him, right? PM Wong.
Okay, but the problem is they actually have to then live in that area, which means whoever they vote for now will need to administrate.
Yeah, so then...
No, but
PAP
you're
might
okay
win,
to live with opposition winning there. That's what's at stake for you, ma.
After 5 years, he will come back.
No, I think he'll be fine. Will he come back or not?
I don't think his mum raised a quitter.
Oh,
You don't know him.
dude. The next episode, we'll be going into the manifestos of all the different parties. And I
Time to
think
get serious.
Time to
yes,
get serious, yeah.
So-
Policy.
Bye!
Thanks.
that's it.
Yeah.
Bye.